two men sat in the same waiting room at the same financial planning office on the same Tuesday afternoon. They didn't know each other. They were both there for their first real appointment with a financial advisor, the kind of appointment most people schedule when something shifts internally and the abstract future suddenly feels close enough to require attention. Both of them were 43 years old. Both of them had been meaning to have this conversation for a while. The advisors saw them both that day, one after the other. The first man, Gary, had $58,000 in a 401k he had opened at 31 and contributed to sporadically. He had a mortgage with 14 years remaining, 2 car payments, and credit card debt he described as manageable. His income was $86,000. His monthly take-home, after taxes and insurance, was approximately $5,200. His fixed monthly obligations consumed $4,100 of it. He had $1,100 in discretionary space each month. He had no clear sense of how much he needed for retirement, had never calculated a target, and had spent his 30s building a life that looked successful from the outside, while the financial foundation beneath it remained largely unconstructed. The advisor ran his projections. Gary's face did something complicated. Not devastation. Something quieter and harder to name. The recognition of distance, of how far the destination was from where he currently stood. The second man, whose name was Leonard, had $187,000 in a combination of 401k and Roth IRA accounts. He had a mortgage with 11 years remaining that he had been making extra principal payments on for 3 years. No car payments, he'd paid off both vehicles the previous year and intended to keep them. No credit card debt. His income was $79,000 less than Gary's. His monthly take-home was $4,800. His fixed obligations consumed $2,600. He had $2,200 in discretionary space every month, twice Gary's margin, on a lower gross income. The advisor ran Leonard's projections. Leonard nodded, asked 2 specific questions, made a note in a small notebook he had brought specifically for this meeting, and scheduled a follow-up. Same waiting room. Same age. Same Tuesday. Same city. Different financial positions separated not by income. Leonard earned less, but by a decade of decisions that one of them had made deliberately and the other had made by default. The advisor told me later that she sees this contrast more than any other. Not the young person who hasn't started yet. Not the person approaching retirement in a panic. The 43-year-old who is either positioned for a genuinely secure retirement or locked into a trajectory that will produce something considerably more stressful, and who often doesn't yet know which one they are. Pause. Music fades in softly. This isn't about whether you've saved enough. It's about understanding that your 40s are not a neutral decade in your financial life. They're the decade that does more to determine the quality of your retirement than any other, and the decisions you make in this window, while there is still time for them to compound meaningfully, will follow you for the rest of your financial life. I'm going to show you the exact rules of why your 40s are the pivotal decade, what makes this window uniquely powerful, the specific decisions that separate comfortable retirements from stressed ones, the mistakes that people in their 40s consistently make that cost them the retirement they were working toward, and the concrete actions that Leonard took during his 40s that produced a financial position unrecognizable from Gary's, despite a lower income. These are the rules that the financial planning industry sees play out, case after case, decade after decade. And understanding them at 43 or 38 or 49 is the difference between the meeting where you nod and make notes and the meeting where your face does something complicated. Transition to core content. Rule 1. Your 40s are the highest leverage financial decade of your life, not because of what you earn, but because of what compounding can still do with the time you have left. This is the foundational truth that everything else in this video rests on. And it requires understanding a specific mathematical reality about how compounding works across a career. In your 20s and 30s, compounding is building its base. Every dollar matters, but the absolute output of compounding on relatively small balances is modest. The work during those decades is establishing the habit, building the balance, and letting time begin its work. In your 60s, compounding is delivering its results. The account is large. The growth is significant in absolute dollar terms. But the decisions of your 60s, other than withdrawal strategy, have relatively limited impact on your final retirement position because there are only a few years of compounding left before the distribution phase begins. Your 40s sit at the inflection point. The balance you carry into your 40s is large enough that compounding is beginning to do significant work in absolute dollars. And the 20 to 25 years of compounding remaining before traditional retirement age are long enough to dramatically transform whatever balance exists at 40 into a retirement-defining number. Here's the math that makes this concrete. A person who has $150,000 at 40 and makes no additional contributions earns approximately $570,000 by 65 at 7% annual returns. A person who has $150,000 at 40 and contributes $1,000 per month for 25 years accumulates approximately $1,140,000. The difference between contributing and not contributing in your 40s is not the difference between a good retirement and a bad one. It is the difference between two completely different financial lives. Leonard had $187,000 at 43. Gary had $58,000. Even if both of them contributed identically from 43 forward, they will arrive at 65 with a gap of approximately $350,000, the compounded value of the difference in their starting positions. The 40s don't erase what happened in the 30s, but they can substantially determine what the retirement looks like regardless. Rule 2. The debt you carry into your 40s is the single most effective retirement savings destroyer available, and most people in their 40s are carrying too much of the wrong kind. Gary's $4,100 in monthly fixed obligations includes 2 car payments totaling $1,140, a mortgage payment of $1,680, credit card minimum payments of $380, and other insurance and subscription obligations. Of his total monthly commitment, $1,520 is going to debt service beyond his mortgage, debt that is building no equity, generating no return, and consuming money that could be compounding in a retirement account. $1,520 per month directed to debt service rather than investment, across 22 years until retirement, at 7% returns, represents approximately $1,010,000 in foregone retirement wealth. Gary is not just paying debt. He is paying $1 million to hold it. The specific types of debt that do the most damage in your 40s are the ones that never end, the perpetual car payment cycle where one vehicle is paid off and immediately replaced by a financed newer one, the credit card balance that is managed rather than eliminated, the home equity loan that converted equity into consumption. These are not one-time costs. They are structural features of a financial life that continuously redirect money from compounding to servicing. Leonard eliminated both of his car payments by his 42nd birthday. He did not replace them with new car payments. He drives paid-off vehicles and will continue to do so until the mechanical cost of maintaining them exceeds the cost of a modest replacement paid for in cash from a dedicated savings account he builds specifically for this purpose. The $1,140 per month he freed from car payments went directly to additional mortgage principal payments and investment contributions. That reallocation, over 15 years, is worth approximately $340,000 in combined mortgage interest savings and investment returns. Rule 3. The mortgage decision in your 40s is one of the most consequential financial decisions available, and most people make it passively rather than strategically. Your mortgage in your 40s is not just a housing expense. It is a retirement planning variable. The age at which your mortgage is paid off determines when the largest single fixed expense in your monthly budget disappears and frees that cash flow for the final years of retirement preparation. The average American who buys their first home at 28 on a 30-year mortgage is 58 when the mortgage ends, 7 years before traditional retirement age. 7 years of freed mortgage payments, redirected to investment, can add substantial resources to a retirement portfolio in the final push before retirement. The average American who buys a second home in their late 30s, trading up as the family grew, the income rose, and the life expanded, may be 68 when that mortgage ends. 3 years into retirement. Still making a mortgage payment on a fixed income from a retirement portfolio that wasn't designed to support it. Leonard bought his current home at 36. He took a 25-year mortgage, which was standard, but he began making extra principal payments at 40. His mortgage will be paid off at approximately 8 years before he plans to retire at 65. Those 8 final working years with no mortgage payment represent approximately $160,000 in freed cash flow that will go directly to retirement savings during the highest contribution years of his career. Gary refinanced into a new 30-year mortgage at 39 when he took cash out for home improvements. His mortgage now runs to 69. He will be making a mortgage payment 3 years into retirement. That reality, a monthly obligation of $1,680 on a fixed retirement income, will shape every other financial decision of his retirement in ways he hasn't yet fully calculated. Rule 4. Your peak earning years are in your 40s and early 50s, and most people spend them upgrading their lifestyle rather than capturing the income for retirement. Labor economists have consistently documented that earnings peak for most workers in their late 40s and early 50s, driven by accumulated experience, seniority, and professional reputation. This peak earning period is also, not coincidentally, the period when many workers face their highest household expenses, mortgages in their prime years, children in or approaching college, aging parents beginning to require financial support. The collision of peak earnings and peak expenses is not accidental. Lifestyle expansion tends to track income growth. As income rises through the 40s, housing upgrades, vehicle upgrades, vacation upgrades, and general consumption upgrades absorb the additional income before it has the chance to compound into retirement wealth. The income peak passes without being captured, and the retirement savings rate at 50 looks remarkably similar to what it was at 35. Gary's income grew from $64,000 to $86,000 between his late 30s and his early 40s. His savings rate stayed approximately constant. The income growth was absorbed by a lifestyle that expanded to match it: a larger house, a second car, accumulated subscriptions and memberships, and expenses that feel ordinary once they've been established. His $22,000 income increase over 5 years added approximately $13,000 per year in after-tax income. His retirement account grew by approximately $31,000 over the same 5 years, a savings rate of roughly 12% of the income increase. Leonard's income grew from $62,000 to $79,000 over a similar period. He applied a specific rule to every income increase. At least 60% of every after-tax raise went to additional retirement contributions or debt acceleration before any lifestyle adjustment was made. The other 40% improved his current quality of life. He felt the raises. He also captured them. His retirement account grew by $89,000 over the same 5 years. Rule 5. College funding for your children is a genuine and legitimate priority, but funding your children's education at the expense of your retirement savings is one of the most financially damaging decisions available in your 40s. This rule makes people uncomfortable. It should be said plainly anyway. Your children can borrow for college. They have decades of future earnings to repay those loans. They have options: community college, in-state schools, scholarships, work-study, part-time work that don't require you to compromise your retirement security. These options are real, they are widely available, and they produce graduates who are functional, educated adults at a manageable financial cost. You cannot borrow for retirement. There is no retirement loan program. The years of compounding that you sacrifice by reducing retirement contributions to fund a college savings account cannot be recovered. The Social Security benefits and Medicare that support your retirement do not increase because you funded your child's college education generously. And a parent who retires without adequate savings and then requires financial support from their adult children has transferred the financial burden rather than eliminated it. Gary has been contributing $500 per month to a $529 college savings account for his oldest child since the child was 8. His oldest is now 16. He has contributed $48,000. Meanwhile, his own retirement contributions have remained at 5% of his salary, the minimum to receive his employer match for the past 8 years. The $500 per month redirected to his retirement account during those 8 years would have grown to approximately $68,000 at 7% returns. The college account has approximately $52,000. The net cost of funding the college account instead of his retirement account is not $48,000 in contributions. It is the $68,000 of retirement wealth that doesn't exist. Leonard has a college savings account for his children. He contributes to it modestly, $150 per month, after maximizing his retirement contributions. He has been honest with his children about the plan. He will help, they will need to contribute, and he will not compromise his retirement security to fund their early adulthood. His children understand this. They are planning accordingly. Rule 6. The career decisions you make in your 40s have retirement implications that most people never calculate, and staying in the wrong job can cost you far more than you think. A person who stays in a career that has plateaued, where income growth has stalled, where the advancement path has narrowed, where the industry is declining, may spend their peak earning years earning significantly less than their skills and experience would command in a different context. The retirement implication of a $15,000 annual income gap, sustained over 15 years from 40 to 55, is not $225,000. At a reasonable savings rate and investment return, the compounded value of an additional $15,000 in annual income captured as retirement savings is approximately $375,000 in additional retirement wealth. The career decision that felt risky at 40, the new company, the different industry, the negotiated raise, has a retirement price tag that most people never calculate before deciding the status quo is safer. Leonard made a career change at 41. He left a comfortable job at a stable company to take a position at a smaller organization that offered a $12,000 higher salary, but less perceived security. His friends thought it was unnecessary risk for someone at his stage of life. The $12,000 annual income increase, applied at his 60% capture rate, produced $7,200 per year in additional retirement contributions. Over 24 years at 7%, that annual $7,200 additional contribution becomes approximately $430,000 in additional retirement wealth. The risk of changing jobs at 41 cost Leonard nothing. The risk of not changing would have cost him $430,000. Rule 7. Your health in your 40s directly determines your retirement costs in your 60s, and the financial return on health investment is measurable and substantial. This rule sits at the intersection of health and finance in a way that most financial planning conversations ignore, and the implications are significant enough to warrant explicit attention. Healthcare is the largest and most unpredictable expense in retirement. The difference in lifetime healthcare costs between a person who enters retirement in good health with no significant chronic conditions and a person who enters retirement managing multiple chronic conditions can run $150,000 to $300,000 over a 20-year retirement horizon. Chronic conditions that are largely preventable, type 2 diabetes, hypertension, obesity-related conditions, are not just health outcomes. They're financial outcomes, and they are significantly influenced by decisions made in your 40s. Beyond direct healthcare costs, health affects retirement timing and income. People who experience significant health events in their late 50s or early 60s are frequently forced to retire earlier than planned, before their savings target is reached, before their mortgage is paid off, before their Social Security benefit has reached its maximum value. An involuntary early retirement at 62 rather than planned retirement at 67 represents a savings shortfall of 5 years of contributions, 5 additional years of portfolio draws, and a permanently reduced Social Security benefit. Leonard invests time and modest money in his health with the same intentionality he invests money in his retirement account. Not as self-discipline, as financial strategy. He understands that the cost of a gym membership and a reasonably careful diet is measured in hundreds of dollars annually. The financial return of arriving at 65 in good health rather than managing preventable chronic conditions is measured in hundreds of thousands of dollars. Rule 8. The lifestyle creep that happened in your 30s will continue in your 40s unless you explicitly design against it, and the cost of each lifestyle upgrade is measured in retirement years, not dollars. Each recurring expense you add in your 40s is a monthly obligation that will require retirement income to sustain. The $180 per month gym membership, the $240 per month streaming and subscription bundle, the $380 per month restaurant spending that normalized upward over a few years. Each of these represents an annual expense that, at a 4% withdrawal rate, requires $4,500, $7,200, and $11,400 in retirement portfolio, respectively, to sustain indefinitely. The aggregate lifestyle creep that happens quietly across your 40s through subscription accumulation, through normalized restaurant frequency, through gradual upgrade of goods and services to match a rising income, can easily add $1,500 to $2,000 per month to your expense load by your late 40s relative to your early 40s. That $1,500 to $2,000 in additional monthly expenses requires an additional $450,000 to $600,000 in your retirement portfolio to sustain at a safe withdrawal rate. The lifestyle upgrade that felt like success, like the appropriate reward for years of hard work and increasing income, comes with a retirement price tag most people never see attached to it. Each upgrade is a vote for a higher retirement number and, simultaneously, a redirect of money that could have funded that higher retirement number. Leonard audits his recurring expenses twice per year. Not obsessively. Methodically. He asks one question about each item. Does this produce enough value in my life to justify its permanent presence in my retirement income requirement? The subscriptions and memberships that can't pass that test are canceled. The ones that do pass it he keeps without guilt. The annual audit typically frees $200 to $400 per month that gets redirected to investment. Over 15 years, that redirection compounds meaningfully. Rule 9. Divorce in your 40s is the single financial event most likely to permanently alter your retirement trajectory, and protecting your marriage deserves the same intentionality as protecting your investments. This rule is not about judgment. It is about mathematics. Divorce in your 40s produces an immediate division of accumulated assets at precisely the moment those assets should be entering their highest compounding years. A retirement account with $200,000 that is divided to $100,000 in a divorce settlement doesn't just lose $100,000. It loses the compounding that $100,000 would have generated over 22 years, approximately $430,000 at 7% returns. Beyond the asset division, divorce in your 40s typically produces two households operating on resources previously supporting one, legal costs that can run $15,000 to $50,000 or more, and a disrupted financial trajectory that requires years to restabilize. Research on retirement savings among divorced individuals consistently shows significantly lower retirement balances than among married individuals in comparable income brackets, controlling for income. This is not an argument against divorce when a marriage is genuinely harmful or irreparable. It is an argument for treating the quality of your marriage as a financial priority alongside your investment accounts, for investing time, attention, and resources into the relationship during the years when the financial cost of its failure is highest. Leonard and his wife do something that might sound unusual, but produces real results. They have a quarterly financial meeting, 90 minutes, a defined agenda, a shared view of every account and every number. They disagree sometimes. They always leave aligned. Their shared financial vision is the foundation of their shared life in a way that prevents the financial resentments and hidden divergences that, in many marriages, become the ground from which larger conflicts grow. Rule 10. The insurance gaps most people carry in their 40s represent catastrophic financial risks that a single event can activate, and closing these gaps is one of the highest return financial actions available. Your 40s are your peak earning years. They are also the years when you have the most financial dependence, children who need your income, a mortgage that requires your income, a retirement plan that depends on your income continuing. The financial consequence of losing your income in your 40s, through death, disability, or serious illness, is larger in this decade than at any other point in your life. Disability insurance is the most underpurchased coverage in personal finance. The Social Security disability insurance benefit for a median earner who becomes disabled at 45 is approximately $1,400 to $1,800 per month, typically 30 to 40% of their working income. For most households, the gap between that benefit and their actual income need is unmanageable. Yet only about 30% of private sector workers have any long-term disability coverage beyond what Social Security provides. Life insurance in your 40s, purchased as term coverage for the period your dependents and obligations require protection, is inexpensive relative to its benefit and becomes more expensive every year you delay purchasing it. A 40-year-old male in good health can purchase a 20-year, $750,000 term policy for approximately $50 to $70 per month. The same policy at 50 costs approximately twice that. The same policy at 55, if health has declined, may be significantly more expensive or unavailable at favorable terms. Gary has no disability insurance beyond the basic employer-provided coverage that replaces 60% of his income for 90 days. He has $300,000 in life insurance, roughly 3.5 times his annual income, which is below the generally recommended 7 to 10 times income for someone with his obligations and dependents. He purchased this coverage at 32 and has not reviewed it since. His situation has changed substantially. His coverage hasn't. Rule 11. The financial decisions you'll regret most in retirement are not the ones that cost you money, they are the ones that cost you time. And your 40s are when the time cost of wrong decisions becomes permanent. This rule is about the irreversibility of delay in a specific way that numbers alone don't capture. Gary's advisor did not tell him he was financially ruined. He is not. He has time and income and options. But the math she showed him required choices that the Gary of 35 did not have to make. Choices about working longer than he'd hoped. About a retirement that might look different from what he'd imagined. About the gap between where he is and where he needs to be, and the specific monthly sacrifice required to close it in the years remaining. The options available to Gary at 43 are real. They are also narrower than the options that were available at 38. The options available at 48 will be narrower still. Each year of delay doesn't remove all paths to a secure retirement. It removes some of them, while making the remaining paths steeper and more demanding of sacrifice in the present. Leonard's advisor showed him a projection that required no extraordinary action, no dramatic lifestyle reduction, no desperate catch-up contributions that compromised his current quality of life. The work had been done. The compounding was running. The trajectory was clear and the destination was reachable without heroics. The difference between requiring heroics at 55 to rescue a retirement and arriving at 55 with a trajectory that requires only maintenance is not a difference of character or intelligence or extraordinary discipline. It is a difference of when the decisions were made and whether they were made deliberately rather than by default. Transition to closing. Gary and Leonard both left that financial planning office on the same Tuesday afternoon. Gary walked out with a folder of projections he hadn't seen before and a follow-up appointment 3 weeks away. He was quiet on the drive home. Not desperate. Quiet in the way of someone processing the distance between where they are and where they need to be, and beginning to reckon with what the distance requires. Leonard walked out with 2 specific actions written in his notebook and a confirmation of a trajectory he had spent 3 years building. He stopped for coffee on the way home. He was not thinking about money. He had looked at the numbers, they had confirmed what he expected, and he had returned to his life. Same age. Same waiting room. Same Tuesday. Same city. Gary earned more. Leonard built more. The income difference did not explain the financial position difference. The decisions, made across a decade, compounding quietly in both directions, explained everything. Your 40s will pass regardless of what you do with them. The decade will happen. The question is not whether you will spend it. The question is whether, at 53 or 55, or when you eventually sit across from an advisor with the actual numbers on a screen, you will be the person nodding and making notes, or the person doing something quieter and harder to name. The 40s are not a second chance. They are not a rescue from what happened in the 30s. There's something more valuable than either of those things. They are the last window in which the time remaining and the income available and the compounding possible are all large enough to determine the retirement you actually live, not the one you survive, and not the one you imagined, but the one you deliberately built while there was still time to build it. The window is open. What you do with it will follow you for the rest of your financial life. OUTRO, calm, measured, deliberate. End card. If this video described a gap between where you are and where you need to be, share it with one person in their 40s who is still planning to figure this out later. And if you want the exact 5-step financial plan for someone starting their 40s behind the sequence, the priorities, and the realistic timeline for closing the gap, that video is next.